The chat's coming through. I'm not sure if the video is going out, but this morning we will be talking about the custom libraries and the new decorative stitches that have been added to DesignShop version 11. Mike, if you could tell me if we are getting video out. Normally I have a little green light that says, yeah, you're going out, and I got nothing right now. So we'll see. Thank you. Mike says we're good, so at least chat's coming in. If you have thoughts or questions about what we're showing, let me know. But let's take a look at some of the new custom shapes and custom designs, as well as some of those decorative stitches that are with DesignShop version 11. So here we have just a blank screen of my DesignShop version 11. And the first one I want to look at is the custom libraries. And I'm going to click on this little tool here. Now, this is level dependent in kind of a different way. You can use them in DesignShop Editor, but you can create your own and save them if you have DesignShop Professional. So using them, Editor, creating your own, saving them so that you can use them later, Professional. And with this, we get this library down on the bottom, and we have different categories. So we have custom designs, and these are going to be essentially embroidery designs. It's like a little library of your own, or in this case, stock saved designs. And these are drag and drop. So I can drag them up here and I can drop them. And then I have this. And we've had these for a while now. We've added some new ones, and the kind of subcategories are down here. And so we've added emojis, which are kind of fun. I feel like that is my face when I'm talking to my friends most often. And then we've added some new monogram decorations. So along with the monograms and alphabets that we've added, we added these monogram decorations that are drag and drop as well. Some of them are in some of the other monograms on their own, but we can scroll through, try not to get car sick as we do this, and we can drag these up, and you can select them, you can scale them if you want to, you can change their color, and you could also add monograms. So I could go in and I could change this to let's do a circle, or let's do seal. I like seal. It's my let's do scroll. And then I would typically have it so before the border, so it's sewing kind of center out, but then you can drag this around. You can scale it to fit what you want it to do, but then you have extra borders that you could play with. If I had professional and I wanted to save my own, I could. So let's come in here and let's do, this is something that I would have used with, when I was doing a lot of collegiate work. If I were doing this, let me rephrase that. If I had had this feature then, which I didn't even have DesignShop then, this was EDS 3 days, I would have created folders and saved all the very specific collegiate approved through all their licensing and all their seals. I would have saved that in here so that I had it available to drag and drop up onto whatever design I had. And Jason asks, on the designs and shapes, can I make my own subgroup? I think the answer to your question is yes. The answer to a question like that is yes. But let's take a look. So if I was paying attention to what I was doing, And let me escape out of this for a second. There we go. If I wanted to, let's say I wanted to create, I don't know, a really funky heart. And it would have a border. Now I just did change element type to add this border really quickly. One thing I've seen on social media lately is, wow, that really didn't work for me when change element type to add a border. One thing I'm seeing is you're trying to do it from expanded stitches, and that doesn't work. So if you see me do something like this and it's like, wow, that's really quick, yeah, that's from wireframe to wireframe. If you try to do it from expanded, that's not going to end well. So I have my little crazy weird heart here. And if I right click on it, I can go to save custom shape. Or if I have this open, this window, if I have it open, I can hit add current. Either one will get me to the same place, and it brings this window up. And from here, I can name it whatever I want. Now, if I save it as a shape, it's going to save into the shapes. If I save it as a design, it's going to save all the stitches with it, so that's what I want. If I save it as a decorative, it'll be a decorative stitch. That's a whole different way of digitizing, and we'll talk about that. Here, I can select a category name, or I can type in my own. And now I have that folder and there. So, yes, you can create your own subcategories. You just have to type them in. Pardon me. You could even, so we saw on that last one, sorry, zooming craziness, on some of the custom designs, and it's on the common closed shapes, there are gradient pieces in here. If you want, you can reshape this. You can go into properties that are appearing on my other screen, sorry, and you can go into effects and see how those are done. If I wanted my heart to have, I don't want all of that, thank you. If I wanted my heart to have kind of a gradient to it, I would just duplicate this. I apparently hit Control D and Control F at the same time. And I would turn off my underlay for the second one. I would change the color slightly. This is a little more extreme than I would normally do, just so that you can see it on screen. And then I would go into effects, and I would go to custom density. And then let's put this into 3D so you can see it. And so that's how I would start to create a gradient or an ombre kind of effect. Now, down here, it's going to be really, really dense, so you may want to lighten the bottom one up ahead of time. The other thing that I would do is I would shorten the stitch length of the top one so that it sinks down into the bottom one a little bit more. And there's a whole video on this, but it was a question that just popped up, so I thought while I was here, I'd answer it real quick. And then best way to combine elements with a satin border, I would just digitize around the whole thing with a single line, even if it's multiple. So that's what I would do. Okay, so you could save this, and let's bring up this category so we can see it happen. Save as custom shape. So I have them both selected. Save as custom shape. I'm going to save as a custom design. I'm going to name it sorry, my keyboard's really loud. And then I'm going to select the one that I had before. And as soon as I hit OK, it shows up down here. Okay. So let's close out of that. So apparently Jason's question is, can you make your own here? And I think the answer is no. You either have custom designs, which are embroidery. You have custom shapes, which are just the shapes and not stitches. So you can be using these with input tools. So you could select this and then select to the bear paw and then, sorry, you could drag it up there and then it would be whatever input tool you had selected. And then, so these are kind of types of shapes. Decorative stitches, these deal with the decorative stitches that we'll talk about in just a minute. And then you have custom ties and sequin stitches, which deal with tie stitches or sequin. Let's go back to custom designs. So under here, you can create your own, and that would be that secondary, that would be that secondary drop down here. So let's delete all of these and let's look at this crazy shape again. So one of the stitch types that we can look at is decorative, and this essentially repeats a little tiny, I'm going to close this window to give us a little bit more room. I'm going to just hit this little X to close that window. That's going to close that custom shape window. If you want it back, you can just click on it here to get it back again. But decorative stitches are a level dependent feature. It's a professional feature, but it allows you to essentially repeat a little embroidery shape or element or whatever throughout a form. And we've added a ton of these in 11. So I could do honeycomb, and you can change them here. You can select them. Let's do pebbles is a little more rounded. Pardon me, a little more random looking. The other thing that you can do is these decorative shapes, if I go into properties and go into effects, these are affected by all these distortion effects and things like that. So if I go to perspective or if I go to radial out, you can really start to make it look like it's kind of ballooning out for that shape. Now, if you want to create your own, you can. Now, to do that, I typically have my grid on. Now, this is going to be scary because my grid is really, really tight. My grid is set to 1 millimeter with 10 subdivisions. So essentially, I have my grid set up to every machine movement or every embroidery point. And what I typically do for a decorative stitch is I need to start and stop kind of on the same line, because if I use a decorative element, and I can use it with a walk or I can use it with a fill, but if I change it to a walk decorative, it follows along that line. So I need the start and stop to follow along a single line. I typically use the origin when I'm designing that, but I would start here, and I have snap to grid on, which makes it much easier to make sure that everything lines up. So I'm going to come up, down. I just have a walk tool. I'm going to create just a little diamond. And I'm going over everything twice. And then I can't end over here. I need to end on the other side because I need it to follow along that line. So I'm going to go one more time and trace over it. So the top has 3 stitches thick. The bottom has 2. That's not easy to see the difference. If I just did 1 and 2, it would be a lot easier to see. So I don't want to do that. I want to hide the fact that I'm going over everything. And then I'm going to go into properties, and I'm going to turn tie stitches off for this. Now, this is kind of weird, something I would not normally do. But now I'm going to do the same thing I did before with my custom shape. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to Save Custom Shape. But this time I'm going to go to Decorative. And so that's going to throw it into its own category. I'm going to I tend to put my initials around things that I have done so that I can keep them separate. And then label it whatever you want so you can find it later. And now, let me turn that grid back off because that's really scary. I'm going to grab just a circle. I use the automatic circle input tool to do that. And then I'm going to change this to a decorative. And then I tend to change my angle to 90 when I'm trying to figure out the spaces for stuff like this. And then I will change this to what I just did. Now this doesn't look quite like I want it to. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to move these handles. So you can move them with the mouse. I tend to move them with nudging. So I will hold the Shift key and use the arrow keys to move this. So this is kind of the center of my little diamond. This is the center of the next little diamond. That spacing looks okay to me. It's the spacing between the next line. So how far over, what is that angle to the next start, and what is the spacing of the next start. So here, this one's kind of cool. I kind of like this. But if I want it to have more of that Harlequin kind of look, I probably want something a little bit more like this. So now that I have that, if I want to save that spacing with it, so the next time I use a fill with this, I right click, save custom shape, go to decorative, and I just save over what I did before. File already exists, replace it, yep. And now the next time I do this, it will grab that spacing automatically. Kind of cool thing about this is I can do this twice. So if I liked that other look, something like this, I think that works. I can right click, save custom shape, go to decorative, and I can label this with a different number. And now, if I look, I have those two different ones. Same thing here. Waves, one shape, and all we did is change the spacing, and you get very, very different looks. If you want to see what these look like on their own, you can go to the custom shapes, and you can choose decorative stitches, and you can kind of browse through them this way. You can also choose to right click on them and edit them or delete them, so be careful with that delete. But you can definitely do it that way too. So those are some of the fun kind of new decoratives and custom shapes that have been added to 11. There are some questions in here about how to do other kinds of stitches and other kinds of things. We will pass those on to Samantha or look at doing a separate video for those. One question we get asked a lot, we will make a video specifically for that. So keep those questions coming. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a lovely, lovely weekend. I hope this helps kind of showcase a little bit of those new stitches. Sorry for the slow start. I still don't have those green lights showing up like I'm actually casting to you guys, but y'all are responding to me. So thank you very much, and see you again soon.